If I was going to hire a forensic SEO specialist, what are the most important questions to ask them? Oh, we'll go with Terry first.
Are you wearing pants?
No, come on. Are you wearing pants? All right, come on, Terry. I know you do it well.
The best way to tell, show them 5 sites and tell them which of these would you allow to go by. That tells you if they can review sites, because 90.
Well, no, but you're thinking manual link penalty because we do too much of that. We're talking a forensic SEO though, meaning traffic's been lost. That's all we know. They, as usual, they're gonna have their assumptions that it's penguin, panda, and this and that.
Tell me the first 3 things that you would do. In other words, I like to give them hands-on stuff. I don't want to know anything, because, like, for instance, when I was hiring chefs, I would put some vegetables down and just watch the guy chop, and I would know this guy has had a knife in his hand before, or
right.
He hasn't, right?
Like me with a guitar, like me with a guitar, I'll just give it to some other guy, and you can tell within 10 seconds if he knows what he's doing or not.
Yeah. Or same on a construction site. They walk in, you hand them a hammer, same deal. You know by the way they grip it if they've used it before. So
okay, so what kind of data, you got to remember this is before you've hired them kind of thing. So what kind of stuff would you give them to test that?
I would say, tell me how would you, what you, the steps you would take to ascertain what the problem is and what what information or access would you need in order to do that?
Okay, I like it.
Okay,
but doesn't the person hiring them though need to know the answers to all that?
Exactly. I can't see why they'd be hiring a forensic if they already
knew all that.
To evaluate one.
Yeah, to evaluate one. I think that's where the problem is.
You're going to know this. I'm going to go to my Rolodex. I am going to go to the people I know. I'm going to say, do you know a good forensic guy? That's how I'm going to get one.
Yeah, and but if you're some guy, Joe Blow, who has a corner store or, has a small brick and mortar, has a small web presence, you aren't going to be able to do that. So, I know, Terry's going to write a post for the dojo for people that want to hire someone, and so the answer is read the post next week. Yeah, we probably will definitely have some of that. As you know, when I did SEO Pros, that was the first thing that I tried to do was give some people some ways that they could ask questions of the SEO and know if they're the guys they want. Here's the thing. It is worth, if you don't know anything or much about SEO, hire someone who does to pick the person to do it for you.
Right. Right, like even get have a consultant to help you acquire services if it's a forensic or an ongoing program or something.
Yeah.
Like I work right now. One of my clients builds intranets, right, enterprise stuff, and apparently there's guys that are hired by corporations as consultants to go out and find 5, 6, 7 different options, bring them back, pricing and features and whatever. And there's these middlemen between the corporation, the enterprise, and the software provider, who's a guy that just does that for a living. So
that's pretty much IBM's whole business model now. They don't make much equipment. They're mainly guys who put together systems.
Well, that's a common approach too in a lot of different kinds of consulting. That was what I was doing as a business consultant. I wasn't always guiding them. Here's the way you need to do this. I was setting up bidding lists and doing the bid analysis and the award process, and then acting as the intermediary to make sure that the guy that got the contract was actually doing the job. That takes a lot of time. And when somebody's already wearing 3 hats in the corporation, they don't have the know-how or the available time to do it right. So they'd hire me. That's common in a lot of engineering consulting too, construction consulting. You bring in an expert to handle the minions.
Yeah, and that's been one of my problems. One of the things that I think as an industry that SEO has not handled very well, I'm sure Ammon will have a comment on this, is that we've always been buyer beware. In other words, the buyer has to go out and get all this information. Well, why the fuck would they hire somebody if they have the information? I mean, really, that's an expectation that I never understood. And again, part of the reason why I formed SEO Pros, which, you know.
Okay. So let's loop around back to the question here.
Okay.
And we're decided that it's a very tricky thing to do. You know what I mean? Because you're, like Ammon said, if you're reaching out, and I know Steve would second that if he was here, if you're reaching out to someone because you don't know about something, how are you able to evaluate that person? And therein lies the problem.
Exactly. So
Especially,
it's either Rolodex or hire, exactly as Dave was just saying, hire an SEO who's got a reputation, knowing that they're not going to get the job of forensic, but they've got to hook you up with a damn good one, and that you're going to, you know, be talking about their reputation on how good a one they find. They will evaluate. They will get you a damn good one.
And you'll certainly, you know, more than likely you've got you know, you could go to them for ongoing services down the road. You're just looking for a specialist right now. I mean, here's a couple $100, you know, who do you recommend, or who can you hook me up with, kind of thing, you know? So, but yeah, it is a bit of a pickle, I guess, because, you know, it's just like SEO services themselves. How many times do we see crap done out there because someone didn't know how to hire or what to ask? But, you know, if you knew what to ask, you wouldn't need to hire someone. Well, no, that does happen. Again, you know, I mean, I get lots of gigs through people that, you know, corporate teams, but that's consulting gigs, Terry, right? So at least someone knows. But yeah, it's a bit of a pickle.